Now I'm excited to welcome back two of our amazing handicappers and horse racing fans in Mr. Patrick Gates, and for the first time, actually, Mr. Eric Rocco. You can follow them on Twitter at Gator Betting and at Trust Rocco. There's a big week going on in sports, my friends. Patrick, how the heck are you balancing it?
It's chaos. That's the only thing you can do. You just got to embrace the chaos this week, pretty much. NHL playoffs, PGA Championship, Preakness. Great time of the year to be a sports fan.
It certainly is, man. But you just cranked out this massive PGA article, and I always can't say enough about your writings and how fine of a job you do there. And anybody listening to this or watching, make sure you check out this article from Patrick. You will absolutely be blown away. But I just don't know where you get the time, Patrick. And a little birdie told me that you might be there this weekend.
I will be. I'll be in attendance Friday. So if anyone's there, shoot me a message. Great to meet up with for some fellow golf fans. So yeah, that should be a great week.
Wow, that is exciting. And Eric, man, can't say enough about what you've been doing. Fantastic run. You're honest when you're losing. You're honest when you're winning. You've been winning more than you're losing for sure. But I want to congratulate you on that. And obviously, this is the first time you came on the show with me. So yes. Welcome, my friend. How are you doing?
Yes, it would not be my podcast debut, but it is with you. And thanks for having me on. It's an honor. Kind of like what I told Farley in the podcast last week. You know, you and Farley were the two podcasts I listened to the most when I was aspiring to do this. So same thing, to be honest, is kind of surreal for me. And like Patrick said, it's a great time of the year to be a sports fan. Derby, Preakness, baseball, basketball playoffs, hockey playoffs. No golf for me, but everything else, like I'm just as excited.
All right. Well, maybe Patrick could talk us into a few things. I'm not the biggest golf bettor. I like to play the majors.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see what he has to do because we're going to touch on that at the end. But first, let's get into the 148th running of the Preakness Stakes. And I always start with this. What the heck are we going to get for weather, Eric?
The little bit of research I've done, there looks like there's going to be scattered thunderstorms Saturday morning. How much rain? It doesn't look like a lot of rain, so I don't see it affecting the races very much. The forecast I saw, it looks like the storms that are coming through will be done by around 11, 12, 1 o'clock. So the track will get fast fairly quickly, in my opinion.
Okay, Patrick, is that kind of what you're hearing?
Yeah, it's kind of what I saw. I mean, it all depends on the rain. Like we saw before, the weather can change on a dime. So it's pretty much just kind of something you got to monitor the day of. I think it's kind of how it's been for the past few Triple Crown races, especially going back to the past few years. It's all the day of. You can't really predict the weather.
Especially this time of year, it's the spring is all over the place. If you lived in the Midwest or out east, you kind of know that. And with Pimlico out there, I believe Maryland. Is that
Baltimore?
Is it Baltimore? Yep.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Yep. So yeah, and it's one of those situations where it could turn on a dime. So definitely time to monitor that. But also another thing to monitor is it's kind of funny. 2 weeks ago at the Derby, a lot of people talking about it. I had to talk about it early too. And the biggest horse, the favorite, was scratched. And same with 5 total horses in this Derby. I mean, that was a little bit out of the ordinary. But now that we have an 8-horse field, is that something we're worried about a little bit, Patrick?
I don't think so. I mean, we've kind of seen this in years past as the Preakness field does kind of get overlooked, especially with the Derby. It is a little bit out of the ordinary. I think I saw a stat too that Mage is the only Derby entrant that is coming over to Pimlico here. Right. And I think this is like the lowest amount of horses that have made the trip in the past 50 years or so. So It is a little bit concerning. But I mean, in general, horse racing fields are getting smaller. There's less kind of those elite tier horses that even compete in this. I don't think a few horses even in the field can compete, but we'll kind of get to that later.
Yeah, that's possibly true too. Only 8 horses here, which makes an interesting field. And Eric, what are your thoughts on obviously that and the field itself?
Well, Patrick hit the nail on the head as far as we've seen this coming for years. Field sizes have gotten shorter consistently all over the country. This is nothing new. Every 5 to 10 years, it's just a steadily decline in horses in general. But I know it's 8 horses. I still think it's a quality field. 7 of the 8 belong in the race. I mean, you have the Lexington winner. You have the El Camino Ridge Derby winner. Baffert, one of his better horses. go down the list, the Federico Tassio winner. So I still think it's a quality field. I don't have a problem with there only being 8 horses. That doesn't bother me somewhat at all.
Lowers the potential payout, I guess. That's what you want to get at.
Depends on who you like, really.
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, just the straight up odds on the horses, but I mean, that almost like a refreshing thing to me in a way, because we just went through 19, 20 horses, right? Derby. It's like now we're kind of getting back to reality here, and you can really kind of pick what you like, So I guess the favorite wins pretty often in this race from some of the stats that I looked at, Eric. Why would that be on this race?
For starters, Pimlico is more of a speed favorite chalk racetrack. Your Derby winner going into the Preakness isn't always up against a lot. It's actually a cutback in distance. So I think a lot of those are factors into why the favorite wins the Preakness a lot.
Does that make sense, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I went through the past 5 Preakness Stakes, and it looks like the last morning line favorite to win was Justify back in 2018. But yeah, Rocco kind of hit the nail on the head here. Like he said, it is a speed favoring track here, and given the kind of drop off in quality when you come from the Derby to kind of the Preakness, it does make sense.
Okay, makes sense. So why, or how about this question? What kind of horse is best for this mile and 3/16 race? Would it be the closers, the front runners, maybe the stalkers? What do you guys think? And you can
as far as the distance goes, there's really no specific style that fits the distance. It's more or less the horse. Can the horse get the distance? A lot of horses nowadays, they're just not bred to go 8, 9, 10, 11 furlongs, especially on the dirt. That's why you don't see many dirt races being raced this long. It's throughout the country at all the tracks. But like I said about Pimlico, it's very speed favoring. So most of the time you want to be near the lead.
Yeah. In the past 10 years, I think 9 of the winners were close to the pace in general. So I saw that and kind of the last deep closer was back in 2016. Exaggerator who came back from 11 lengths. So exactly. It is. You kind of want to be up there near the pace. And while Rocco could disagree here, but I don't think this race is too much early speed outside maybe one horse. But I think it's kind of sets up for maybe a closing opportunity in this race specifically.
Okay, that's interesting. If you're getting high fractions, suicide fractions, possibly, then maybe a closer does kind of come up at the end, which makes it interesting. And you're right, mile and 3/16 is kind of in the middle, Yet, and when I say middle, it's because the Belmont is such a big race and the Kentucky Derby is such a big race. That's the only 2 major races that are really longer. The rest are mile 16th, mile and an eighth. So I find that interesting. Now, going to the post positions, Patrick, are they important in this race?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, historically, you see the stats too, and I think post position stats to me are kind of like trends in other sports. So you have like hockey, of like the over it's hitting like 4-0 on a Tuesday when it's 86 degrees. It's kind of like that. It all depends on the style of horse that's in that position too. Can you go back to their stats? Can they break from that one position? Can they get out early? Have they had issues coming from the outside? It all depends on the specific horse. It changes race to race. So while you kind of do have to factor in, I put more of a factor into their historical stats breaking from that specific post rather than a trend of the horse coming out of post position 6 has won 16 times in the Preakness.
Okay. And you agree, Eric?
I love the trend analogy. That's perfectly put. I don't ever look at those stats. Even historically, I don't care what post they're in. It varies on the horse. And in this particular race, there's 2 horses it's going to affect. The Baffert horse draws the rail. And while he was most likely always sending to the lead, drawing the rail, he's 100% sending to the lead. Kind of like Verifying, who I was a fan of going to the Derby. But when he drew the 2 post, I couldn't bet the horse no more. Tyler had no other option but to send this horse to the lead, go too fast, and get burnt out early. And he came to a stop. And that's kind of the issue I have with the one horse in the Preakness is I think he's gonna get hit from the outside by a couple horses, specifically the cheap speed in the 4. And then back to the post position statement, I think it affects the 8 first mission because he's the widest of all. Sias is going to want to put the horse into the race, and I'm afraid he might get a little too aggressive early.
Okay, yeah, to move into that position. So that's interesting. I'm looking at this field here, and it just doesn't seem, and you kind of answered my question. My next question was who's going to be the front runners in this race, and National Treasure makes sense. Just kind of what you said there. He's on the post. He's a Baffert horse now again. Here we go back to Bob Baffert from Yak Team, but there he is. And then obviously you got a few closers. Mage is considered a closer, I'm sure, though, especially with the way he ran at the Derby. And it's funny how you mentioned the front runner in the Kentucky Derby. I believe I had the 6 horse. I think it was Kingsguard or something. And I was like, for half the race, I was like, yeah, baby. And now he suddenly crapped out at me like he should have. But I at least hit the exacta box, which was really nice.
Nice.
For the Derby. One of my previous guests, Sig from Wager Talk, hit the exact and the trifecta. So congrats to him. But yeah, that was a massive payout for the Kentucky Derby. But yeah, the way I see it is I think that National Treasure will take the front. So that's interesting. And then you think that Coffee with Chris might be running fast off the gate too as well, right?
That's the horse I've been talking about on Twitter all week. I think he affects the outcome, drastically affects the outcome of this race because he's the bomber. He's the one probably has no chance to win. So why not just send this horse to the lead? Maybe he makes the lead and holds on. That's kind of the best that the connections are hoping for. I really don't think Jamie has any other option but to try and push this horse to the lead, which is going to screw up Baffert's race completely.
Yeah, that was my exact thought too, was this horse cannot win this race, in my opinion, but he will affect the outcome based on him setting that early pace and throwing off pretty much the trip that these other jockeys want to have in this race.
Okay, well, that's good information, guys. Well, let's move on to the next question that I have then for you. How are the speed figures looking in general in this race? Why don't you go first, Eric?
How did the speed figures look? Well, the first thing I had noticed was the speed figures for the Derby, I thought came back a little light. I compared it to last year, my opinion, one of the worst Derby winners ever, Rich Strike. Rich Strike got a 97 on Equibase. Hey, it is what it is. Yeah. He got a 97, and I thought Mage's performance was very good this year. He only got a 104 on Equibase and a 103 on Brisnet. I'm a Brisnet numbers guy. I'm not a DRF guy. I don't go by buyers personally when I handicap. But as far as Brisnet and Equibase went, I thought Mage's number came back a little low. And then the other speed figure I found interesting was First Mission's race in the Lexington when he won. I know he beat Bob Baffert's horse, Arabian Lion, who's entered in the 4th race on Saturday in the Sir Barton. But the number came back really high in the Lexington, and I think it came back a little too high, and that's what the public's going to bet First Mission off of.
Oh yeah, that's okay. So this 98's pretty high on the buyers. Would you say?
I don't think it's that high. I don't know what the previous. I don't remember. I shouldn't say I don't know. I don't remember what the previous winners were in the Derby, but I would assure you they were much higher than that.
Okay. So, I mean, looking at this field, I'm going to, and this is from my experience betting horses. I know that I don't do it as much as you guys, but I would say this field's kind of weak compared to other Preaknesses. Is that fair, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's fair. I don't really want to rag on this field too much because it is what it is, but it is a weaker field in my opinion here. When you look at kind of the top tier horses in this race, they do kind of stand out more towards the bottom. I usually try to avoid the favorites in this race, and I think I'm going to, but it is a little tougher in this race, especially like you had mentioned before. When you dive into those speed figures, there is a pretty big disparity between some of these horses, especially kind of when you break them down in tiers of who do you think can actually win this race.
Yeah, it's weird to see 270s here, like for Chase the Chaos, and he's sitting here in this race. You got an 85 and an 82 with Coffee with Chris. Now obviously you got the 98 with First Mission, which is one of the favorites. You got the 95 with National Treasure, and of course the 105 with Mage that just won the Kentucky Derby. That's going to be over 100. But the rest of these, it just seems like a weak field to me in general. Eric, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you just said. The issue with Chase the Chaos is all of his good races came over the synthetic at Golden Gate. And if anybody doesn't know what that means, synthetic and dirt are completely two different surfaces. Most of your synthetic horses are very good on the turf. It's a comparable softer surface. So those horses don't relatively run well in the dirt. So if you toss him out of the race, Coffee with Chris, the 4, probably doesn't belong in the race either. Now we're down to a 6-horse field. And barring some crazy outcome, like you said, that is going to dilute the payout because most people are looking at this race as a 6-horse race.
Oh, that makes sadly I am too. I think those are the ones I crossed off as well. I mean, for the most part, I have an idea what I'm going to do with my ticket, but obviously want to see what you guys think. And my next question that leads right into, Patrick, who is your favorite to win this race?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. So Mage obviously wasn't the favorite in the Derby here. But it's an interesting kind of story of him too when you look back at it too. So there's 2 previous races in the Florida Derby and in the the Fountain of Youth Stakes. Sorry, he lost to Forte, who was the favorite, got scratched. That obviously moved him up a little bit on the board yourself. You look at a similar kind of story for First Mission here. I like what Rocco said before of kind of that outside post position is going to affect him a little bit more. But you look back at his stats, he's lost to First Mission, or he's won his last 2 races here. He's looked good. His speed figures have been improving here. Great workouts as of late, especially kind of lengthening out, looking towards the Derby, a bullet workout in his last. I like the 8 a lot this race here. I don't think Mage can really repeat here. So I usually try to avoid the favorite, try to find a way around the favorite if I can here. So I'm going to look to probably key First Mission up top here, but there's a few other horses that I like as well. So while he is kind of my personal favorite, I may kind of sprinkle in a few other horses, which we can get to later.
And how do you not like Brad Cox as a trainer and Saez as a jockey? So you got 2 good things going for you right there. Eric, how about you?
Well, this is my first time disagreeing on a podcast, so this is going to be interesting. I could not disagree more on First Mission. For starters, the value on him is going to be terrible because you got Brad Cox, Luis Saez, high speed figures, coming off a nice win to Lexington. This horse I have read all week is going to be pounded at the windows from now until when the race goes off. That's the issue I have with First Mission. I don't see Mage going off 6-5 even money. Can he repeat? That's a whole different question. But as far as value goes, that's kind of why I'm against First Mission. I don't think he beat anybody in the Lexington. If you go down the list, Arabian Lion, there's a reason he's in the Sir Barton. He's not in a better race going forward. The 3rd place finisher, Disarm, got buried in the Derby. He's gonna be an average horse the rest of his career. And you can just go down the list. I don't think there was nothing in that race to be betting First Mission as strong as they are going into the Preakness. The horse I'm targeting will actually be a price. I don't know what we're gonna get on him. He's 15-1 morning line. Perform the 6, the Shug McGahee trainee, ridden by Farragut Lynch. His performance in the Federico Tassio was one of the greatest wins of the 30,000 races I probably watched in my life. It was unbelievable to win. This horse got stopped 3 times in the stretch and still found a way to win after getting steadied coming out of the gate.
Looks like a good enough distance between that back in April 23rd as well. That's 15-1 seems like a pretty interesting price on a horse that took 2 firsts in his last 2 races, coming in here. So that one stuck out a little bit to me. I'm not going to lie. So you're keying in on Perform, which is a nice payment horse. It's just not a big name for the trainer, right? With McGahee.
Not a big name. No, McGahee's a huge name.
Compared to the Cox, the Baffords, the Pletchers, right?
Yeah, I guess he would be a tier below, but I wouldn't put him too far below. He's actually very good with distance horses. That's kind of another reason why I like this horse in this spot. People aren't going to bet him. You say he won 2 in a row. If you go 2 back, that win was at Tampa. And unless you're a regular Tampa follower, when people see Tampa on the program, this is the first thing they do. They don't even look at the race. So people that do follow Tampa kind of have an edge when those horses run when they're in the PPs. This horse finished the race in 140-1. He drew the 7 hole. He got pushed 5 wide in the first turn. Got the horse to tuck and relax, and it showed a different showed a different move in the horse instead of going to the lead. Because if you go down his PPs, this horse was pushed to the lead in every other race. That was the first race he got taken back and got him to relax, which is what Lynch did in the Federico Tassio. So those are all the reasons why I'm on this horse mostly.
I mean, you make a great argument and at a great price, because when you don't like a field in general, you can say that, well, I'm going to take some money horses. The problem with the way I look at it is I think that there is a really legit horse, unfortunately, that ran it already. And I can sound like the public guy, but I don't know why I'm completely fading Mage here. You know, I mean, my problem and what I'm upset with myself with the Derby is, I mean, even Marco said it on our podcast. If you like Forte, why don't you like Mage? And all of a sudden Forte gets scratched and I'm not moving. I'm not replacing him. Why am I not doing that? You know, this hindsight stuff keeps bugging me. But I mean, the dude can close and he's got a pretty good post position at the 3 if he wants to stalk. You know, so it's just like, why just not go with what's obvious? Another thing is being the 8-horse field usually favors the favorites. I mean, I'd much rather bet the Derby for the long shots and the pile of money that you can get in to the Derby in general. But, you know, this is almost where I'm going to probably put Mage up at number 1. But my other number 1 is National Treasure. So I rewatched the Santa Anita Derby. Okay. And when he was rounding that final post here, that final turn, he got bumped hard, you know, and he still kind of ran up to finish 4th. You know, you kind of saw that push at the end, but he got bumped, and that threw him off completely. I don't think it was the best race ran by Velasquez, and you know he didn't have a great position in that horse to get him bumped. But you know, maybe I would almost treat him like a favorite at 4-1, and maybe put him on the top as well. Kind of what you said about First Mission. I looked at him too, and I'm not going to let First Mission beat me, guys. I'm not going to let Perform beat me either. So what I'm going to do with them, I'm going to put them on top 2 on just a cheaper try. You know, I think I'm going to do that. And I think that I'm going to also have, you know, a nice exacta out on those 2 horses, which would definitely pay some, you know, pretty well, as long as I can still get the National Treasure or Mage for second, you know. So that's kind of the way I'm looking to construct my ticket. So it's almost like we disagree, yet we kind of agree in ways, right?
I like it. I think we're all going 3 different ways here. That's great. That's the best part about horse racing.
No, it makes sense, and that's fun. No, that's great. So, you know, and just like you kind of alluded to, I'm tossing number 2. I don't think number 2 belongs here at all. If I could make a bet to finish last in this race, it would be number 2. But the number 4 and the number 4, I think these horses, though, are going to go off at a massive price. Okay. So that's going to be interesting. So instead of leaving 2 horses off of your trifecta to show on the 3rd, I think you'd hit the all button. You know, I mean, you're going to have to put a little bit more of an investment on it. But if you can hit one of these 2 horses at the 3, well, first of all, if you don't, you're really kicking yourself. But if one of those can hit the 3, it would be a pretty nice payout to your trifecta, wouldn't it, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree. I'll see what Rocco thinks, but I think the 4, Coffee with Chris, would be that horse you kind of want to put in that show position, if anything. I mean, Chase the Chaos, you look kind of what he's done. He earned a win in your in spot in the Preakness and the El Camino Derby here, but that was on artificial surface here. He tried dirt for the first time in the Grade 2 San Felipe Stakes. Non-competitive here. He's coming off a 2-month layoff here, so we'll see how that affects him. But again, he hasn't really looked well when he's increased in distance here. So I think if you're gonna kind of throw one of those long shots in for your tribe, I think it's a 4. I don't think the 2 hits the board here at all.
Eric?
I don't disagree with any of that. If either one of them were to make the ticket, yeah, you're talking boxcars for the triple, no matter what comes in ahead of them. I'm not an all type of bettor. When I have horses that aren't going to hit the ticket or can't win the race, I always leave them off the ticket. That's just my way of handicapping. Some people agree with it. Some people hate it. They'll never leave 1 or 2 horses off a ticket. I don't think they have a chance to hit the board. So I'd rather take that money and reinvest it in other places. That's kind of how I would look at it.
And that's fair, because you're playing the whole day. You know, you guys are playing
all week. I mean, you bet all year. It adds up.
Yeah, it certainly does. And you know, you want to attack races how you think. You know, if you're just kind of like just coming in and you want to bet run race, then you can kind of think about that a little bit. And so, unfortunately, I'll be coaching and doing all kinds of fun stuff during the day. I'm hoping to even catch the race myself on time. So I might be playing one race this weekend. So that's the way I'm thinking about attacking it. But without giving out too much information, Patrick, how do you plan on attacking this race?
Yeah, I think we kind of broke it down before too. I think you're looking at those tries and exactas here. In my opinion, kind of those win bets are a little bit outdated. I mean, the return you're getting, if you like a horse to win, throw them in your exotics, throw them in your exacta, throw them in your try here. So I'll probably have 2 or 3 exactas. Where I'll probably try to key one of the I'll probably key first mission in one of them, and then I might throw in perform, blazing sevens, kind of throw those 2 up top. And another exacta, and then kind of work my way down there. But yeah, I'll probably have two or three exactas, and then probably 1 or 2 tries in this race as well. Just trying to key a few horses. I usually don't kind of go all in any of the situations, just like Rocco here. I usually kind of pick and place where I want these horses to finish up based on kind of my rankings at the end. But yeah, I'll probably throw a few exactas and tries out there. That'll kind of be my plan of attack here.
And Rocco, how about you?
I'm playing the race a little tighter than that. I like just one ice cold exacta box, and my triple key comes out to for $1, $8. I'll have 2 horses up top, 3 in the middle, and 5 on the end, leaving out the 2 and the 4. Everybody knows I like perform. It's kind of hard to write off Mage and First Mission, so that's kind of how I'm going to play the race. Basically centered around those 3 horses.
Okay. No, that makes total sense to me. Now, good stuff. So if you obviously listeners want to get their tickets, Patrick will have one for you if you need it. Eric, fantastic horse bettor. I think you worked with jockeys throughout your life. You're going to have some of your premium horse plays available to premium subscribers at the OddsBreakers, right?
Yes, I will. Correct. I will have an article on Friday, the Black-Eyed Susan Day, and on Preakness Day.
Awesome. No, I'm excited to see it all, my friends. Now, moving to the Friday race. Like to hear a little bit about the Black-Eyed Susan, because sometimes we're bored in the afternoons on Friday. And we just need something to do, Patrick. Yeah. What do you got going on, Patrick, with the Black-Eyed Susan?
Yeah, so I unfortunately haven't got to this yet. So I'll let Rocco kind of take the lead here on this one, since it sounds like he's done a little bit of research on this already.
Yeah, I haven't touched it yet either, but go ahead, Rocco.
Well, Bob Baffert has the favorite in this race. If you listen to the media and you listen to people online, she's already won the race. She's undefeated. She's 5 for 5. There was controversy. She would have ran in the Oaks, but because of Bob Baffert problems with Churchill Downs, she was not allowed to enter in the Oaks. So he was forced to go this route instead. So people are essentially already giving her the race. I'm not as convinced that she's just a shoo-in to win. I'm not saying she can't win. She's the horse to beat. But I have a price in the Black-Eyed Susan I have my eye on. She's 15-1 morning line from a trainer that, unless you bet maybe the Midwest, you never heard of. Now, her jockey has a little more of a credible name. Number 10, Text.
Okay. Number 10. All right. That's interesting. And so I'm sure you're going to have a pretty good card for Friday, obviously coming up, aren't you? Well, that's great. So if anyone's interested in Eric's card, you can just be a monthly member. You're not only going to get that, you're also going to get his plays for a whole month. So make sure you check that out. Pivoting over to golf, we have a big major championship going on, the PGA Championship, Patrick. You are the golf expert. You've been on fire over the past year and a half at least. Yeah. I mean, all your articles, lots of them hitting. Obviously, you're hitting the top 10s, top 20s, so a lot of the favorites. What do you like about? Can you give us a little bit of information about this course? Obviously, at the OddsBreakers, you have a wonderful article, but maybe a couple golfers that you like.
Yeah, so we go to Oak Hill in Rochester, New York right now. The last time we saw this course was in 2013, hosting the PGA Championship. Since then, this course has done a kind of a complete renovation, getting back to its original Donald Ross roots here. Tight fairways, long course. They elongated it probably about 250 yards as well. But the key here is going to be the rough. The rough is extremely penal, kind of off the tee here. It's about 3.5 inches, which you normally see around 2.5 to 2.25 as well. So that's something to monitor as well. You're going to want to make sure you key on strokes gained approach, and then even around the green too. If these guys kind of scrambling, if they do miss these extremely small greens, I think they're the third or second smallest on tour that players will face this year, especially. Putting obviously is a concern, but not so much this week. You're going to kind of want to key on those 3 putt avoidances if you can as well. It's a fun course for sure. I mean, it's extremely challenging here. You're kind of looking at your bombers, but also the guys who don't completely negate accuracy off the tee as well. Ball striking, obviously, another huge kind of component of this week's field as well. They kind of compared it to Winged Foot back in 2020 as kind of one of the comparable courses with the rough and the small greens. So that's kind of what an overview of it is. I mean, going into the field, obviously, you got your big three. Big two, I'm going to say. I'm going to leave Rory out here. You got Scheffler and Rahm up there. Rahm's already won 4 times this year. Scheffler's got 2 under his belt here. Rory hasn't won a major in his last 30 starts, so I'm kind of negating him a little bit in this field. But it should be a great week for golf, obviously. Got a few outrights, a few top 20s, and then even one top 30 as well.
All right. Yeah, you do have a few outrights here. And you didn't go with Rahm, or I don't even think you went with Scheffler, right? You went with Schauffele.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough to play. So there's 156 players in this field too. So you're looking at a favorite. They're plus 750. Both of them are, I think, on kind of the major books as well. I usually try to spread it around a little bit. So I did key on some of the favorites here. When you're looking at, you have Xander up there, you got Finau, Brooks, and then even my long shot, Ricky, this week as well. He played in that 2013 championship back at Oak Hill, finished tied for 8th, been in much better form as of late. And I think he's got a shot to kind of capture that illustrious major this week.
Oh, that would be wonderful for him. He won down here in Arizona, actually. Was it last year? Yeah, I think the Phoenix Open, I think he won 2 years ago or something like that. So
2019, I believe.
2019. God, time flies, man. Okay. That's always a trip down here because it's one of the biggest first events happening in the wonderful weather of Arizona. No, great stuff. And if you guys want to check more information out on how Patrick is playing this, make sure you check out the OddsBreakers and this wonderful article he puts out, which leaves us to Eric. Where could our listeners and viewers get your great information?
Head to the oddsbreakers.com. I post some free articles on there time to time, probably a little more often than time to time. Then I also have my premium content, horse racing, baseball, basketball, NFL is going to come on upon us fairly quickly. So head to the oddsbreakers.com or just head to my Twitter. I post stuff on there all the time. I'm always available through DM. Any questions, concerns, complaints, whatever you want to talk about, I'm always around.
At Trust Rocco is his Twitter. Patrick, what you got going on?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Gator Betting. We got a weekly NHL podcast, Expected Bets 4, that we usually go live about once a week for, breaking it down. We'll kind of sprinkle in a little live show here and there with 10 minutes, just plays the day. And then, on Instagram, you can also find me at Gator Sports Betting.
All right. Well, hey, guys, love your content at the OddsBreakers. Wonderful job on this show. I can't wait to see who wins this race and see who's going to have the bragging rights at the OddsBreakers, my friends. Great stuff. Thanks again for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Kev.